Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to One Spatial Australia's FME 5 Hot Features. We are doing this webinar following on from our very successful FME World Tour that One Spatial has run around the world. And we thought we'd put this together just to highlight some of the hot features that have come out with the latest release of FME. I'd like to take this opportunity to let everyone know that our webinar is being held over the lands of Australia's Indigenous people, and we wish to acknowledge them as the traditional owners. We'd also like to pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and elders of other communities who may be here today. A little bit of housekeeping. For those people that may want to submit questions, we welcome you to put them in at any time during this webinar. Commercial and technical questions are welcome. And if you have a specific question that you would like a particular presenter or speaker to answer, please prefix your question with the speaker's name. We will answer the questions at the end of the presentations, and the questions will be answered by the technical team. Just a little bit about One Spatial. We are a global organisation with over 30 years in the geospatial industry. Our head office is in Cambridge in the UK, and we have offices in Ireland, US, Belgium, France, Tunisia, etc. And here in Australia in particular, we have staff located in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Canberra, and Perth. So we work in a number of disciplines such as government, utilities, transport, natural resources, and AEC, and we partner with a number of organisations within Australia and overseas, and in particular with regard to today's presentation, Safe Software. Who are we? We are a software solution provider and a global expert in managing location and geospatial data. We strive to make our world safer, smarter, and more sustainable for our future and our children's future. We endeavour to help our customers unlock the value of data to create this smarter and sustainable world. And we deliver our data solutions and applications on-premise, mobile, and in the cloud. We are a customer-centric business. We deliver our solutions by addressing our customers' needs and market requirements, and we collaborate with people to achieve this. Our products that we have, our One Spatial products include our One Integrate, our rules-based engine, patented, which allows you to validate data, correct data, and infer data based on business rules. Our One Data Gateway application for the easy ingestion of data. Our mobile solutions, One Spatial's LMAP, our leakage application, which entails machine learning and artificial intelligence for determining leakage, PAI for positional accuracy improvement, and UN migration. Some of the products that One Spatial produces, there are others. And in particular, what I'd like to talk about today, or we will be talking about today, is the FME integration platform, where we can provide you with desktop, server, and cloud solutions. Our services that we provide, we facilitate production evaluation or product evaluation. We can do demos and proof of concepts, utilizing the tools that we provide as well as what other people may have. We do provide consultancy project work. We undertake public and private training services where we can do the training at your place, customized to your requirements, or we can do it at ours where we run a designated training program, again, can be customized to your requirements if required. We do one-to-one mentoring on workspace reviews, and we provide annual maintenance with all-inclusive technical support through our support team. We have expertise for our One Spatial products and FME products through our highly skilled and qualified technical team. Sales and information is available from sales.australia@onespatial.com. You can also call us on our 1300 number for people within Australia. And on that, I'd like to introduce the team that we have here in Australia. We have Andrew Bashfield, our sales manager, Simon Laird, our technical lead, Emma Yates is our marketing manager, Priyantha Palagama, senior consultant and our manager who looks after the support. Daniela White is our support for sales and manages the training program. Sam McDonald, senior consultant, and also is the main person coordinating and managing training that we provide. Michael Studdard, a senior business consultant. Assis Manandahar, senior consultant. Christian Fellinger, senior business consultant. James Botterill, senior consultant. Dustin Chislett, a senior consultant, and Anthony Hesling, senior consultant. And myself, Andre Makika, as the country manager for One Spatial Australia. Today, we're going to be going through 5 hot features that our technical team have identified from the latest release of FME that we think need to be highlighted and run through for those people that weren't fortunate enough to attend our FME World Tours around the world. So we'll be talking about workspace comparison and merging, introducing Schema Scanner and some use case examples, improved logs and transformer performance, a new in FME Server Analytics, and FME Cloud Console. We'll be looking at the new look and better performance of it. I'd like to now welcome Simon Laird, who is going to be presenting to us about workspace comparison and merging. Welcome, Simon.
Hello, thank you for the introduction and welcome along again to our 5 Hot Features webinar, of which my topic today is going to be workspace comparison and merging. So all good FME webinars need an inspirational quote, and today is no different. A problem well put is half solved is a quote from John Dewey, who was an American philosopher, and that quote comes from his 1948 book, The Pattern of Inquiry. So as you've just heard, my top tip or new feature that I'm going to be discussing today is called workspace comparison and merging. And this feature was born out of an idea coming from an FME user, just like you or me, who wanted to be able to compare 2 workspace files that they had been given. The reason for wanting to do this comparison initially came from the idea because the ability to read in FME workspace files as a reader type in FME Workbench came out in FME 2015, which gave you the ability to see what was inside a workspace, what readers and writers you were using, perhaps what transformers were being commonly used. And this particular user, Mark F, submitted an idea back in 2015 on the FME community, which is linked there, with the idea that wouldn't it be great if I could do a quick and easy visual comparison between 2 workspace files. Since that idea was originally submitted, several other ideas in subsequent years have been submitted, have gained quite a lot of traction and interest in them being developed. So Safe Software, the developers of FME, have gone and built this function and released it as part of FME 2022. So a bit about what this function does and how it might help you. So what it can do, We can very quickly now easily compare changes in two workspaces over time. So you might have an existing workspace, and then you might have a newer workspace that may have been given to you from someone else who's updated it or perhaps enhanced it, and you want to now see what the differences are. So it can very quickly and easily show us those differences as to what's been added, what's been updated or changed, and then also what has been deleted. And so by this, what I mean is we might be talking about transformers in FME Workbench that have been changed or removed. However, we might be talking about other details such as transformer inputs or outputs, or even transformer parameters that have been changed. We also might be considering connections between transformers and readers and writers. We might also be talking about changes to readers and writers themselves. And we also might be looking at changes to any parameters that have been set and defined within that workspace itself. So any of those elements can be viewed and understood as to what that change might have been. Why might we want to use this? As I said, we might have two workspace files that ourselves we've generated and maintained over time, and we might wish to see the differences. However, you may be working in a team environment where you've got different people who are looking at the same workspaces and making changes and have enhanced them, and you might be wanting to see what those differences are. So it makes collaboration a lot easier. But it also then makes reviewing workspace changes, whether they're in a team environment or you're working on your own, much simpler to do. And it's something that's now become available in FME Workbench, which is part of FME Desktop in the 2022 release. So I'm now going to swap over to FME Desktop, and we're going to have a look at how this actually works in action. So here we are, we're in FME 2022. We've got an example workspace here that I'll just step through now as to what it does. So on the left, we have an Excel file to start off with. This Excel file lists out a series of files that have been loaded into S3. And what this particular workspace does is it looks at that Excel file, which tells us what data has been updated into S3. And then in this workspace, what we've got is an S3 downloader. So this particular workspace we're looking at was built in FME 2017. At the time, the way of interacting with S3, which if you're not familiar with S3 is an AWS service for storing objects, which we might know as files. So storing objects there. In 2017 FME, the transformers are a little bit different to what you might be more familiar with in recent releases of FME. So at the time, to download data, we used an S3 downloader transformer. So this particular transformer, using the paths that were contained in an Excel file, it's going and retrieving and downloading those files. We're then renaming a particular attribute for those files that we've downloaded. And then what we're doing is eventually we're putting all the files that we've been instructed to download from that Excel file into a Postgres table that we store all the files that have been downloaded. However, what we're doing in this particular example here is we may receive updates to existing files. And so rather than inserting each file over and over again into that particular database table, as we download the updates, we're actually updating an existing record in the Postgres table. So we're not having duplicates of the same file over time. So what we're doing to determine what's an existing file or what's a new file and therefore needs a new record is we're using a change detector transformer here to determine from the existing Postgres table what is a new record and what is an existing record. So fairly straightforward FME process. There's not too many transformers. And now I'm going to show you how we can actually do a comparison on an updated version of this workspace that was built using FME Workbench 2021. So in this FME Workbench 2022.0 version, what we can do is go File and then Compare and Merge. So this is the way we can get access to this function. So as you can see here, we've got two workspaces. This particular one I'm going to open is the newer version, which is the 2021 version. And now what we can see here is FME has gone and done a comparison here of those two particular workspaces. So highlighted in the bottom is, I guess, a marked up or annotated copy of our new workspace, the 2021 version. As you can see in green down the bottom and also listed on the right are the additions to our workspace. In the yellow are any transformers or any other features that have been modified, and then in red are the deleted or the removed elements. So in our original workspace, we just had a regular reader. What that's been replaced with in our newer version is, I guess, a more current, a more dynamic way of reading that data in using a creator and a feature reader rather than our existing reader, which, as you can see, the reader's red and our creator and feature reader are in green. We're now actually using the newer transformer for connecting and integrating with S3, which is the S3 connector rather than the S3 downloader. We still have our existing feature holder and attribute renamer there, and then we've got an updated change detector transformer. So change detector between 2017 and 2021 has been upgraded. So we can see when we look at the change detector, we can look at here the actual changes to that transformer over time. The existing older workspace was using version 2 of that transformer, and our latest workspace is using the version 3. So as you can see, there's a lot more parameters that exist within that particular transformer. And as you've got highlighted here, all of the changes have been highlighted to us by FME. And then finally, at the end of the workspace, we've got a whole range of other changes that have occurred. We've got a new timestamper transformer, and we have the same writer being used. However, if we were to go and build this workspace in FME Workbench 2022, we wouldn't necessarily need to use this existing logic to read in the old table and do a change detector. We could use the new upsert function, but that's probably a different topic altogether. So what we can see down the bottom here is all those changes that have occurred in an annotated way. On the right-hand side in this particular workspace, comparison and merge function is we could go through and select all or any of those changes that we wish to merge into a new workspace. So we might wish to keep some or keep all of those changes. What we can do through is go and select which of those we want to keep, and then we could go and hit the merge button to create a new workspace file that brings across parts of the existing, parts of the new workspace into a new FMW that we could then go and maintain and move forward with, and that could be our new baseline for this particular workspace. So something there that we can use hopefully within our team environments to enable us to collaborate and work on workspaces together in a bit of a better way. So we're not manually doing a side-by-side comparison anymore of two workspaces. We can actually apply this process to go and see what those differences are. So if you have any questions on this, please drop your questions into the Ask a Question dialogue. Otherwise, get in contact with us and we can hopefully help you step through this new feature. So again, thank you for joining today. I hope you get a lot out of the webinar, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you, Simon. Okay, our next presenter is James Botterill, who will be introducing Schema Scanner and using some case examples.
Hello, today I will be introducing you what is a new transformer to FME 2022, one that seeks to derive the schema from incoming features from a data set. So it's called the Schema Scanner, and it tries to read the feature type definition, and you can use this within your workspace to learn more about schema and control it. Now, often this transformer will be much more useful in dynamic schemas when we're using dynamic readers and writers. But you'll see from the examples today, hopefully, that, yeah, it's a very handy transformer and something you can use across many areas. It's been in development for quite a long time, and yeah, it's quite interesting. So when we say schema, we're talking about the data model of the incoming data. So the structure of that data set. So is it strings, numbers? What type of data are those? You know, like how are they stored in terms of their types? You know, lengths, Unicode, other kinds of information that could be handy to understand before we go and write the data out. So the schema scanner will find attribute names and data types from the incoming features, and it will output them as a list. So you'll see here on the actual transformer, we have some tab areas. We've got general. So the very first output schema before data types features typically set to no. So it's a non-blocking transformer, but you actually probably want to set this to yes if you're writing dynamically, reading and writing a dynamic schema. You'll probably only want to alter the number of features to scan if it's a really large data set, otherwise scan everything. And the ignore attributes, we typically leave that as the default so that we ignore FME format attributes, JSON, CSV, others. If you want to change that, I'd recommend reading the help. The data types, again, the standards are pretty good. We're looking at what types of FME standard types are they? Are they real 64-bit integers or FME buffer types? And then in terms of varchar, what width is in a string, it will determine the maximum and give you a number of the maximum characters. And the FME decimal, what it's outputting there is the number of digits before the decimal to the left, and then the amount of decimal places to the right, B. There is an option in the third tab here to detect FME dates and to convert them from various input dates. This can be time consuming, but it could also save you a bit of time further on in your workspace dealing with dates. So it's good to explore that. And lastly here, the schema definition name will be this default. You can change it, but may as well leave it as it is. What this is used for is if you've got multiple schemas, you want to link the schema definition back to the data. So it's an extra column that gives whatever that name is so that you can write out dynamically. Do note that the schema setter transformer is no longer available. This supersedes that. So out of the output ports of schema scanner, you'll have the data, the input features coming through and being passed out the output port. You'd be very familiar looking at that in the visual preview. Now out of the schema output from this transformer, you'll note that just the feature type name is outputted. We need to, of course, look at the feature information window to explore that further, bringing that up. And outputs here are obviously a list, an attribute, and you'll see here that the various names of the fields and the data types listed out individually. And this should be listing here the schema only transformer. That is something that is quite unique to this transformer. And we need that when writing dynamically. More about that later. So some use cases can help us with managing the unknown. So as we're reading in data, we can explore in the feature information to try and find out, okay, what is the largest character length for this particular feature title, this attribute called title, or yeah, what types of data are the latitude and longitudes. So a bit more thinking forward with the scanner transformer, we can attempt to detect schema drift. Schema drift is what FME likes to call change in the schema. So we all know that there's often fields, columns, data types that are removed, added, or changed over time. And the schema scanner can help us see how that changed from the original. And we can basically build a robust data validation workflow. So when you look at this, one thing to note very much so is we've got an original and a new updated shapefile in this case, and we're only using the schema output. We're exploiting and then joining basic back on the exploited attribute names. What we're doing also on this feature joiner is right-clicking on each port and adding a attribute, or assigning an attribute, where we're giving it a true or false. So for the joined, it's true, and for the other unjoined, it's false. Thereafterwards, we pipe all those into a tester, and a condition for false, we make the workflow terminate. So this could be used to determine whether data is meeting the standard that you want. So in this instance, it's not, because the new data that's been trying to be uploaded has a different schema distance when probably it should be path length. We can use schema scanner in dynamic instances where we want to write out many different features or different inputs. So typically we could do this before, but we would have to have a lot more readers and potentially writers with different schemas. This simplifies it greatly. So where data is expected to change often, you can put in both the output and schema port and use this dynamic schema definition to say it should be coming from the schema definition name field that we showed on the transformer. And the feature type name is basically the many features on this reader. So what it ends up looking like is it bulk loads all the information in, and upon writing it will filter for the feature type and only write out drinking fountains with the schema that has the location, maintainer, etc., but not these other fields which belong to the public art. From a step further than this is to use in combination with schema mapper. So schema mapper allows us to control the transformation of one or more attributes. We can set those attribute names to other preferred attribute names. So if we commonly know a old attribute that gets assigned badly and we want it to be in this other format, we can look up a spreadsheet in this schema mapper and do the mapping before we utilize this schema scanner transformer. And in that way, the schema scanner transformer is scanning the transformed schema, so the one that's been validated. And in this instance, you can see here I've changed a few to new attribute names that we need for the database, for example. But the old attributes can stay the same, and then we can manage change better. So again, here we're outputting both ports to a dynamic schema definition and specifying the name field that comes out of the schema scanner transformer. So a little bit more around schema mapping. It's worthwhile looking up YouTube on that one, because it's actually got quite a lot of functionality within it to do various different types of mapping. So I can highly recommend that. So thank you for that. That hopefully gives you guys an introduction into schema scanner and what it can do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. And I would like to now welcome Assis Manandahar, who is a senior consultant with One Spatial, to present on improved logs and transformer performance.
Hi, everyone. Hope you are all having a great day. I am Assis Mananda, and today I'm going to talk about improved logs and improved transformer performance in the new FME 2022. These are certainly one of a few of my favorite features in FME 2022, and I hope you'll like them too. So beginning with improved log details. In previous FME versions, the logs in FME desktop used to be a text file or plain text. But in FME 2022, SAFE has upgraded the log as a structured it as a table where we have separate columns for timestamp, CPU usage, elapsed time, the transformer where we have the hyperlink of the transformer itself and the message of the log itself. So this uh, re or revamped or improved presentation of error logging brings in the hyperlink for the transformer, and uh, once we by clicking on the transformer hyperlink, we can easily navigate to the transformer location in the workspace itself. I'll give you a quick demo on that. So here I have FME Workbench 2022, and I have run a small sample workspace. And after running the workspace, I can see the log here, which is as in a table structure, and I've got different transformers hyperlinks. So if I click on this log on the transformer link, so it's automatically pans and zooms to the transformer that the log is referring to. So we now have uh, easy access to the transformer, and if there are any errors or warnings, we can check on the transformer easily. This feature will certainly be very helpful for for large workspaces, and will save a lot of time in debugging those large workspaces as well. Next up, I want to talk about improved transformer performance. So FME is going through a lot of changes, and bulk mode support is one of them. Bulk mode support is an overall improvement in FME, and here the transformers will be have support for processing hundreds and thousands of features in each transaction instead of one feature at a time transaction. So this bulk mode support will be very efficient and efficient for processing large data sets. And it will certainly bring performance improvements or save time to run very large data sets. This bulk mode support is being rolled out continuously. And in this release of FME 2022, all readers, writers, and Python-based transformers have been upgraded to support bulk mode. In future, there will be other transformers which will support bulk mode as well. So apart from bulk mode support, FME always makes improvements on specific transformers as well. And these specific transformer improvements may sometimes be requested on the FME community. And for example, here, the tester transformer is the most commonly used transformer in FME, and in FME 2022, it has been upgraded to up to 2 times faster. Clipper transformer is also has got a lot of upgrades, and it's now at least 2 times faster and 2 to 40 times faster. And not only it has been faster, it has got a lot of new options as compared to the previous version of FME 2021. Similarly, Tyler bulk mode operations, bulk data operations are also improved in this new FME 2022. Now I'd like to talk about specific transformer improvements or feature improvements. In FME 2022, SAFE has introduced the ability to upsert. So upsert into a database is a process where a single transaction process where we update an existing record, and if the record does not exist, it will be inserted into the database. Right now, PostgreSQL database writer supports upsert in FME. Soon, this upsert functionality is going to be rolled out to Oracle and SQL Server databases as well. And this is also another example of the power of FME community, where this idea to upsert into PostgreSQL database was the most voted idea. So SAFE does look into the FME community and updates or improves FME software based on those feedback as well. So if you have any feedback, then FME community is a great place to go to. The shortest path finder has also been improved. It has now a new automatic reordering mode, which is a simpler mode and will generate the results faster. The old reordering mode, which was previously present, is now an advanced mode, which you can still use if you need to. The geo database readers and writers have also got a drastic improvements on particular use cases. For example, raster dataset writing has got major improvements. So raster dataset writing, which used to take 10 to 15 minutes, is now completed in few seconds. Similarly, reading aggregate geometries from file geodatabase readers has also been improved. Similarly, other changes are improvements are Bentley MicroStation design now supports item type in the writer, and in AutoCAD you can there is now support for 3D geometries. So yeah, these are just some of the specific transformer and format improvements. The FME 2022 has a change log, and if you want to go through particular or go through all of the changes, you can always have a look at the change log in there. Yeah, that's it from me, and hope you enjoyed this transformer improvements and FME log improvements, and I hope it'll be useful for your workspaces as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Assis. I'd like to now introduce Sam McDonald, another one of our senior consultants, who is now going to talk about hot new features, server analytics. So welcome, Sam.
Hello, my name is Samuel MacDonald. As mentioned, I am one of the consultants here at One Spatial Australia, and I'm here today to talk to you about the new Server Analytics feature in FME Server. Server Analytics is one of the hot new features for FME Server in 2022. With each year, Safe Software gives us increasingly better options for managing and controlling our job loads in FME Server. This includes options such as job prioritization, routing based on current CPU load, how long jobs are taking to run, and so on. With Server Analytics, we have a new tool in our toolbox for this purpose, which will provide us historic data of our job throughputs. FME Server Analytics will provide you with a visual tool to view the job load on FME Server within a specified period of time. This period of time is entirely adjustable using the controls located above the graph and can be adjusted from a period of minutes to right through to a period of years. The throughput at any one of these intervals on the graph can be highlighted, and this is shown in the picture on the slide, providing us with a means of identifying where high demand periods may be occurring and just how much throughput is occurring during those times. And instead of simply talking about this using the slides, I'm going to go ahead and jump into FME Server. So here we are on the home screen of FME Server 2022. If you are familiar with this landing page, you'll recognize a lot of our options that are pre-existing. Run workspace, where you can simply run a workspace. Schedules, where you can set up your workspaces to run on a particular schedule. Files and connections, where you can upload data and different resources and establish database and web connections and so on. But you will possibly notice an entirely new option under our admin section of the menu bar, and that is our Server Analytics option. It is on this page that we can start to look at the historical throughput for our FME server instance. Looking at the screen right now, we are looking at the entire range of jobs run on this fairly new installation of FME server. If we take a look at the controls up at the top, the window is showing a 4-hour period of time, but we can only roughly see 2 hours of data. As you can see, this starts halfway through the graph, as this is how long jobs have been running on this installation, which is again fairly new. Hovering over the graph as it is, I can start to take a look at the throughput at any one of these little vertices, these little balls here. As we can see, the jobs remain fairly consistent between 22 to 14 jobs per minute. And this remains fairly consistent up until perhaps 6:45. It's at this time at 6:45 that suddenly we have this significant spike to over 300 jobs a minute, which then begins to stabilize to, what is it, about 90 jobs a minute, roughly. That then jumps back up to, let's say, about 200 jobs a minute. And then it seems to return to normality between that 22 and 14 jobs per minute. Now, we could use the controls up the top to adjust our chart time by looking at predefined intervals or setting the start and end date using these calendar drop-down options here. But additionally, I've just adjusted it. Additionally, what we can do is that this graph is actually interactive. Let's say that I wanted to get a better idea of this peak here. I don't have to necessarily come in and set the start and end date time based on what I can see here. I can go ahead and select the section as follows, and then it will go ahead and zoom right into it. And this that it zoomed into will basically just meet that time frame of that selection, which was roughly, in this case, 4 minutes. So what this will do is this will provide us a smaller time frame for a smaller overall time frame for our data, which we can now see that this data, each one of these intervals, is occurring in seconds, not in minutes. The period of these intervals on the graph that can be hovered over will reflect the overall time of the graph. So if you're in years, then what you'll see on the graph will be in terms of months. If you're down to seconds, you will see it in seconds. And so that we can see it's not just 300 jobs per se, we actually now 300 jobs per minute. So we can now see on a second by second basis that at this time we had 7 jobs per second, that up here we had 9 jobs per second. So we get a higher level of detail by zooming in. The server analytics will let you do that. It will let you go as wide or as fine as you want to go. So the next question you may have is, what can I do with this information? As I mentioned earlier, FME Server provides you with a range of options to adjust how your workload is managed. Server Analytics simply provides you with the insight on where you may want to start looking. We could go and find this suspect period of time in our completed jobs, for example, to perhaps understand what jobs are being incurred during that time, why those jobs are incurring such a hefty amount of traffic. Perhaps we might want to go look at our scheduled tasks, go have a look what's in our schedules, and perhaps how these scheduled tasks could be leaning towards these peak times. It may suggest that we have interval schedules that are triggering concurrently, which may not be required. And we do have an example of this here. I have 3 schedules that are all running hourly. This is example 1, example 2, and example 3. And these all run hourly on the hour. So they will occur concurrently. If I wanted to perhaps flatten the load a little bit on our server installation, I could go ahead and offset these from each other. So go into this one and perhaps change the start time to be 5 minutes after the first one. Accept that. And go ahead and change the second one, the last one, to be 10 minutes after the first one, 5 minutes after the second one. This will give each of those jobs 5 minutes to complete before the next one begins. For event-based triggers for our automations, we can use this information to understand the peak traffic periods in an integrated system. If an external system is putting too much pressure on FME, whether it's something internal even, could be a FME service schedule, it can be external like a message broker or a webhook or something, we could either communicate that back to the owners of the system in an attempt to flatten that peak period, or we could go ahead and scale the FME server installation to match the demand. It all begins with understanding the problem. Finally, via our engine management section, we can start to define new queues with varying priorities. And we can basically use this to prioritize some jobs over the other. Create an example queue and let's give it 1, where 1 is the top priority. We can use job routing rules where we can route to a particular queue based on a variety of properties that are selectable. Job routing rule. And these properties can be things such as our CPU load as a percentile, peak memory usage, and so on. I could specify if our CPU load is greater than 80%, then we're going to go to that example queue, which is a high priority queue. Finally, there's engine assignment rules, where we can make more or less engines available to different queues based on a few different properties. Properties being the type of engine or the characteristics of the host of the engines. There are many different options to begin optimizing and balancing your workload for FME server installations. And in 2022, server analytics is the ideal starting point. And with that, this concludes my section on server analytics. If you have absolutely any questions about server analytics or perhaps FME server itself, please don't hesitate to drop a question in the chat or to get in contact with us directly.
Thank you, Sam. I would now like to invite Priyantha Palagama to present on FME Cloud Console, the new look and better performance.
I'm going to demonstrate how you can quickly start with FME Cloud Console. I thought to include this topic with 5 Hot Topics webinar this year because Safe Software has introduced a lot of changes to FME Cloud Console. As you can see in this dashboard interface, all these menus, colors and items have been changed what you have seen in last year in the FME Cloud Console. It's not just the appearance, but they have done a lot of changes to improve the functions or the activities of the FME Cloud that you can perform through the FME Cloud. And this dashboard page, you can see now there are 3 instances. The one of these instances, Kangaroo, is running at the moment, other 2 are paused. So and also it just show you some important alerts in the right side. For example, the first one that you can see, there's an unassigned static IP. As you know, in AWS cloud, any unassigned IP addresses will be charged, so it's better to assign it to one of those instances or just delete it or release it. Also, if you scroll down, you can see some important announcement and then find links for support. So this is the dashboard page, and then you can see in the left side, in the left pane, you can see create instance, and then instances page, schedules, snapshot, static IP and billing menu items. So we will look into them one by one. First move on to this instance page, and at the top you can see this create instance button, and you can find the same option, the menu at left side. So we will look into create instance later. Let's first look into this instance page. So again, you can see all the instances you have created through this FME Cloud Console, and you can filter them by different, whether it's running or paused, by their status. Here also you have a drop down list to do the same thing. And again, if you click or select one of these instances, let's select the first one which is running now, and it gives you a summary of that instance. So I just give you the link to the instance and the type of the instance. It's a standard instance, and then the size of primary and temporary disks, and if you have assigned any static IPs, they'll be listed here, and also your payment plan. So if you, at the moment you have pay as you go, but you can convert it into a subscription if you need. And the region you have deployed this instance is Australia and AP Southeast too. So apart from this summary, you have the different other tabs that you can browse into to perform different actions on this instance that you have selected. So you can set up alerts, and so there already we have created one alert. If the server is unresponsive more than 15 minutes, they'll be alerted. So you can click on create alert and select different parameters to set up alerts. When you select different options from this top down menu, you can see the graph below changed, and it shows the current status of the selected parameter. Here we selected server response time, and you can see this graph. And if you go to select the number of engines, you can see number of engines graph, and then you can set up a name for the alert and select to whom you need to notify, or even you can create a group. So I'll just cancel this create new alert, and then if you go to monitor page, so this is a really cool interface. So yeah, they have made a lot of improvement into this page, and you can even see more parameters now included, and there are options. You can select them by weekly, monthly, or 1 year even, and all these data being retained. You can see them to 1 year, and the other thing is, if you just hover the mouse on one of these graphs, you can see it is synchronized with the other graphs on the page. If you scroll down like this, so get more information, and you can make better decisions on your instance. And moving to backups page, you can see the backups. Usually the FME cloud take backups daily, or when you post the instance, take a backup. And the security page, it's just basically the appearance is changed, but all the features were same as the previous console. You can set up you can allow permissions or block permissions to different ports. And events page allow you to create event notification. So here, if you got a fatal error or instance action failed, you can get a notification, and you can even set up new one and different event type. It could be when the instance is started or post or reboot, it will create event. And finally, the last tab is the activity tab, which lists the activities performed on this instance. And that covers what you can see or monitor under the instances. And moving into the next menu item, schedules. So you can set up schedules to start, pause, or reboot instances. Here you can see two schedules on Kangaroo, the instance Kangaroo. So one schedule is to start it at 9:30 p.m. and to stop it if it is running, and the other schedule is to start it 7:30 p.m. daily. And if you click create schedule, you can select the instance, just select any of them here and give a name and description. And you have different option, as I said: start, pause, reboot, or start and pause. If you select start and pause, you can define at what time to start and at what time to pause it. And also you have find control on daily or weekly, and if it is daily, you can select on which days in the week. So it's straightforward, it's really easy to create schedules. And then a snapshot is usually when you are upgrading the instance, you take a snapshot. At the moment you can't see any snapshots here. And again, static IP, I talked about this static IP previously. As I said, now we have one static IP which is not assigned, so we can either delete or assign it to avoid charging it, avoid charging unnecessarily actually. So I'll just click assign and then select one of these instances. To assign a static IP, you need to post the instance. So at the moment only these two instances are posted, so I'll select one of them and assign it to that instance. Right, so this is important actually. For example, if you need to allow communication from an email server, so then sometimes you need to whitelist the FME cloud IP address. So in that case, having a static IP is useful, and then you can keep that static IP when you are upgrading instances from one version to other. And the last menu item is billing, and here you can see the summary of each instances. You can expand it to see the cost or the amount that spent on each resource under that instance. And then also you can find out all the invoices and download them, previous invoices. And this page shows up the the total credits you had and then the remaining amount. And subscriptions page shows any subscriptions you have. If you have pay as you go, because at this moment in these all these instances use pay as you go, so then we can't see any subscriptions here, but you can click on this button to get a subscription if you need. And payment details page allows you to set up your credit card information. So I'll skip that and move on to the next one. It's the billing alerts. So you can set up billing alerts. For example, you have set a billing alert if the remaining credit falls below $50. So then I will receive an alert to say that you have low credits. So the alerts can be set up based on low credits or monthly cost. So that's about these menu items. As the last thing, I'll just show you how to create a new instance. So if you remember the old FME Cloud Console, there was a wizard type interface. You need to fill first page and click next, and the second page and click next. So now everything has been integrated into one page. This is really easy now. So you can see all these things within one page and even estimate of cost. So you can give a name to your new instance, and then URL, and you can give a description as well. Let's say just give it 2022, and the options to select different versions, previous or recommended or the current version, and also you can go for a beta version. And then you need to select the region, select Sydney. So when you select those different options, you can see change the estimated monthly cost if you're running this for 720 hours per month. You can change these values and see the estimated cost, and all these values are in US dollars. So let's select the starter instance, and then the primary disk size, temporary disk size, and number of backups you need to have, and different alerts. And finally, you can even assign a static IP. So it's simple as that. Just hit create instance, then you are done. So that's actually it covers almost all the menu items and everything in the FME Cloud Console. Now we have really easy to browse interface, and so what else? You can just jump into the FME, just create a FME Cloud account and start a new instance, because you'll get $100 worth of credits to start with. And we are happy to support you always. Just if you need any help, please send your support request to support@onespatial.com. Thank you.
Okay, welcome all. Okay, our first question is to Simon. Does it always present a better or updated transformer to use which will improve performance with regard to the comparison?
Yeah, so I guess the way the comparison works is that you're comparing two different workspaces. So they're existing workspaces that you may have created yourself or been given. So it's really up to what you've put into those workspaces as to what it's going to show the difference between. So it's not so much a process to sort of give recommendation on what you should change or update. It's really about doing a comparison. So it's going to show you if there's a difference between transformer versions between two different files, but it's not going to necessarily make recommendations on what might provide better performance. So yes and no.
Okay. Thank you. We've got another question here. Similar to 2017 and 2022 workbench comparison, can we input 2017 workbench and what transformer to upgrade to 2022? Basically showing a yellow box. What?
Yeah, so I guess there, yes, we can input a 2017 workspace, and then you can go and compare it to whichever other workspace from other versions you've got. It might be older than that, might be something from before 2017, or it might be a newer version of that same workspace. You can go and do that comparison, but it is just a comparison. So if there is an upgrade in one of those, an upgrade to a transformer in one of those workspaces, yes, you could accept that particular change, and that would then be merged into your new consolidated file.
Thank you, Simon. Got another, probably not a question, but more of a comment from Nigel. Link to transformers from log will save me so much time. So yes, we do agree with you on that one, Nigel.
The next question is the upset function available on the Oracle database writer? That's the next question.
Next question, okay.
Yep,
Yes.
I'll take that one.
Yep, take that one.
At the moment, it's not available actually. It's only in the PostgreSQL format. So yeah, hopefully it'll be available maybe in future releases.
Yeah, that's right. Right now, just Postgres, and I saw in Spatialite database as well, but not available in Oracle at the moment.
At the moment, okay. There is another question here. Does the schema scanner show domain name and default value?
I can have a go. I've never tried it with an Esri feature class, so that one I think we'd have to actually check, but obviously you do when you're working with a feature class with domains and subtypes, you can set it to resolve that domain and actually give you the coded value, or if you resolve it, give you the description of that particular field. As to whether it shows the default value, that's a good question. We'd have to probably have a look into that one with a particular example you've got there for that question.
Okay. I think that's all our questions, and I am conscious that we are a little bit over time. Just very quickly to close off, One Spatial FME Services. We sell, support, and train FME, and we've been doing that since 2004. We are an FME Platinum partner. We have dedicated support for FME desktop, server, and cloud. And as we mentioned, we have certified and skilled staff globally for desktop, server, and we have certified trainers. FME services facilitate production evaluation, FME consultancy, bespoke and public training, and we have support available at support@onespatial.com. I'd like to thank you. We hope that these 5 hot features will fire you up to use FME more productively. And I'd also like to highlight that we will be having another webinar in July where we'll be covering off on the GDV Hub. If there are any questions or you have any information that you'd like to ask, please drop us a line and get in contact with us at sales.australia@onespatial.com. I'd like to thank you all very much for your time this afternoon, this morning, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. And we thank you very much. And on that, I would like to wish you all well, be safe, and we look forward to catching up with you at our next free webinar. Thank you all.